We will do it live, as Bill O'Reilly famously said. I never know when the text hits, when the text hits, when the texts hit, as opposed to when I come into the room. And if it coincides with my text hitting, though I haven't got my text yet. So I await you. Welcome, paulkalarski.com. Look, I could put this logo down if I could figure it out in this corner. Then we got one in the top right corner and one in the bottom corner. And we match. Come on in. I see a couple people. And you can watch me drink. There weren't a lot of close games today. That Dallas New England game was pretty good. It's actually in the odd position of pulling for New England as an underdog. That hasn't existed for years and years, right? So looking forward to tomorrow night, resting up today to get ready for that. It's going to be exciting. Just finished a piece, I think, and if you heard me last week, especially on Outkick 360, I was talking about it. I think Mike Vrabel needs to have a big night. It's not quite the Houston game, the second game of his coaching career here, where he had to come up with a formula and throw a wildcat at him, where he's playing his fourth and fifth offensive tackles and his backup quarterback, and was without Delaney Walker, who was a centerpiece of that team. It's not that, but it's the second level where they beat the Patriots during the regular season, where they beat Baltimore on the road in the playoffs. Things are stacked against them, and for them to pull off an upset against the Bills in Nashville on Monday Night Football, I think it starts with a really good plan and a message that was conveyed all week. And so we'll see how what he started with and how that goes. What's up, Christopher Garrett? Taunting and weak roughing calls are out of control. Get used to them. I mean, weak roughing calls have been a part of the game for a long, long time. Taunting is, nobody's a big fan. So it's really weird when they put in a rule that the general public has such a problem with. That's not a safety concern. Doesn't make a lot of sense. Elevation of IR had not happened today. Could conceivably still happen tomorrow. But no. So at this point, would read it as a good thing about McNichols and maybe a bad thing about Hooker. Well, Radens isn't starting, I wouldn't think. I thought there was a starting scenario for Radens if they were going to shut Saffold down. And there'd been some hints that they would shut Saffold down, but it doesn't look like that's what they're doing. So he's next man up at guard, certainly behind Saffold, I would think, based on the way that Keith Carter was talking last week. So if Saffold can't finish, if that shoulder acts up, I think that we'll see Radens. If Nate Davis goes down, it'll be interesting. If one of the tackles goes down, I would think that we'd see Kendall Lamb first, but we'll see. If Caleb Farley doesn't start tomorrow night, if Breon Borders starts in front of Caleb Farley, I would get out your torches and pitchforks. So I don't see what's going on. Ed, I said, I laid this out on the show on Friday. I mean, Indianapolis did its part today, beating Houston. They're at San Francisco, I believe, on the road next week. That's a tough game. I think Garoppolo's back and starts that game, but it's winnable. Then, if they beat the Titans in the rematch, that's obviously massive. After that, they get the Jets. Meanwhile, the Titans, Buffalo tomorrow night, really tough. Kansas City, I'm not a huge buyer anymore, but still tough. I mean, they're going to score points on you, despite what they did today. They're human, though, in a different way. Titans need to win that rematch. And then the week after that, they're at the Rams. So this month of schedule, totally favorable for the Colts if they could win a home game against the Titans. And it's a big mistake to think that this division is sealed up by any means. It could be. Titans do their part, it could be, but it's not necessarily. Well, it's very rare that a guy gets sick and it lasts that long. We saw it happen with Farley earlier this week. These guys, unlike you and I, obviously, quick antibiotics if they need them intravenously, IVs to deal with any dehydration, and usually stuff is 24 hours. And we only found out about the sick, could have been 24 hours later. So I would be optimistic about AJ Brown being recovered. Unless guys are violently ill, usually NFL guys who are sick. Now we don't know if it's stomach sick or more like virus sick, but they usually bounce back really quickly. So I wouldn't be too nervous about that. But you never know. Never know. Yeah, it's not about toughness. I mean, it's about ability to produce. If you feel like shit, you might not be able to produce. I would think that Dupree would be somewhat limited, and they would be wise to use him, on pass rush downs. Would seem to make sense to me. And you use Ola and Simon where you need to fill in, including to start. But we'll see. I mean, it's been since Dupree talked to us, he's been off, a total of the week he stood on the sideline and didn't play. I've got it right here. So he's been out 3 weeks. Yeah, they did not play and 2 inactives. That's a pretty long break. I don't know if I've ever shown you this. We get this kind of right up here. So it's got everybody in week by week, what they did. Each guy. Very handy list. What does this mean, Alejandro? What else is on your mind? Here's the fear to me, and here is why this is what would piss me off if I were you as a Titans fan. I'm trying to get that off the screen. The Bills went out and got better at the things they needed to get better at. I think they're running the ball better, but they're certainly rushing the passer better. And they've got guys, their top 3 guys on the defensive front are only playing slightly more than 50%. And that's really impressive when you look at Oliver and Hughes and Rousseau, a high draft pick. Look at that. Lo and behold, a high draft pick playing and impacting games. But I think those 3 guys are playing, 56, 53, 51%, and they just bring waves of depth. Titans don't have depth like that. So it's frustrating to watch a team that you feel like you're closing the gap on, address a concern, and get deep at the position that was a concern and get so much better in that area. And the Titans haven't done that at their areas. Patrick raises the Cowboys in that area, and they changed a lot on their defense, which is right. The Titans changed a lot on their defense. I wrote about this week. I mean, I'm frustrated by some of the Titans' deficiencies on defense because they've gotten better rushing the passer. They've gotten better on third down. They're still giving up too many chunk plays. Thing is that they're getting better at those things has gotten them only like 1.5 points better scoring defense. They've gone from like 27.5 to 26. And it's not like they've played the mighty All-Stars when the Jets and the Jags are two of the teams you played, and the Colts, who weren't very dynamic. So that's disappointing. But I do think, all that most of us were thinking they needed to do was get average on defense, and they've gotten close to average on defense. Not scoring defense as much as you'd like, but it's the offense that's doing the underachieving here. You can say out of injuries, but we don't know yet. We haven't seen this whole damn offense on the field yet. From like the first day of training camp till now, they haven't been able to get everybody on the field together for any stretch of consistency. And that's the big problem with this team, because this team was supposed to be an explosive, dynamic offense that had a counter to Derrick Henry that wasn't going to need Derrick Henry to carry at a world record clip, because it had this passing game over the top that would make you pay if you were trying to stop Derrick Henry. And we haven't seen that. And so the offense was supposed to be a top 5 offense, while the defense, if it got to mediocre, was going to be sufficient. Well, I think the defense is doing reasonable work to getting towards mediocre, and the offense isn't holding up its end of the bargain. Yeah, Christopher, I mean, how concerning is Henry carrying 30 times a day? I mean, I don't know what's going to stop Derrick Henry. At any time, whether he's carrying 30 times or not, the most likely kind of injury that Derrick Henry suffers is somebody rolling up on his leg. A bad luck injury, not a wear and tear injury, not at 27. So, I mean, it's concerning. I wouldn't stop using him. I'd use him as much as you need to use him to win games and to worry about later. But they got to get everybody healthy. So offense, Wade isn't using play action as much for some reason. The tight ends suck, which I wrote about. Jeff Swaim. I'm not a big PFF guy. I know there are a couple people in town that use it like it's biblical, but Jeff Swaim is rated 70th out of 70. And I don't know if they didn't make a mistake not going and getting Luke Stocker, who just signed with Minnesota, if he wasn't better than Jeff Swaim. A lot of you were telling me not to worry about tight end, that Ferkser was going to be just fine, that Ferkser was the number 1 tight end. Ferkser hadn't done a damn thing. I know he was hurt for 2 games. And the other 3 games, he's been invisible. He didn't catch a ball that would have beat the Jets. So all of you who said that losing Banu was no big deal and they were going to be fine, you should all be raising your hands, because I don't see that. So tight end is a real problem right now. They're not getting anything out of that spot. And I'm not just talking about pass production. Pass protection from tight ends has been bad. And that's a problem. So I don't know. I'd like to see an adjustment there. I don't know what the alternative is. More Michael Pruitt for sure. He's been the best at a lot. Can also block and pass. So he should be playing the most out of those 3 guys. Will says the defense still isn't coordinated and prepared. It's really disappointing. I do see some issues there, but I think it's substantially better in terms of pass rush and third down, which are the 2 issues that we wanted to see get better. It's unquestionable that they're, what are they at 37% as opposed to 51% on third down, and pass rush is, substantially better, and that's without Bud Dupree. So. Kyle Ryan wants to know if they put Marcus Johnson, AJ, and Julio on at the same time and who's in the slot. That's part of the mystery. That's the beauty. I think any of those guys could go in the slot at any time. And that would be my choice for top 3. I mean, the only guy who's a designated slot receiver on this team is Chester Rogers. Cam Batson, maybe. So they can do anything. Hooker has not been activated, so unless they activate him tomorrow, which is possible, they don't have access to him. So it would remain Crookshank, which is a problem. It's time to upgrade on Crookshank, but seemed to miss their window there, and they tried with McDougald, and that did not work. What else is on your mind out there? So be sure to numbers suggest you've been doing it, but Blake's scouting report is out there. I did a mailbag this week, and I'll post this Vrabel piece. I'll put it on Facebook tonight, and I'll tweet it out first thing tomorrow morning, but it'll be on the site right after we finish. Yeah, I think Farley's got to start, and I think, he needs to be good. First round draft pick in week 6 should be a contributor and shouldn't be a monumental concern. It's time. Let's go. Let's go. Fans at UT last night, there are a lot of apologists for the fans at UT last night. I think if it happened somewhere else, everybody at UT and everywhere else would be all over them. It's not behavior that's acceptable anywhere. And there's too much talk of, it's 15 years of frustration bottled up and coming out. A lot of schools go through 15 years of frustration. A lot of teams go through 15 years of frustration and get some bad calls. Suck it up, Buttercup. I mean, for fuck's sake, 15 years of frustration. Who brought that frustration on you? You did. Your administration did. Those are your people. Hiring Jeremy Pruitt, who you thought was great at the beginning. Give me a break. I mean, you played well. You closed the gap. You got a backup quarterback who's stupid enough to run out of bounds on the last play of the game. Spot was bad. Still had a chance to win it. Didn't know what to do. But you can't do that. If Yankees fans did that, you would be destroying me. If U.S. soccer fans did that, you would be destroying me. So don't tell me I can't rip you for it all over a spot in a football game. I mean, have some context in your life. I don't think he jumped very well for that pass in the end zone, and it wasn't a dropped pass. It was off his fingertips. It was a little bit high. This is bullshit here. Are you being serious here about Vrabel? He doesn't want the team to peak too early. He's giving guys extra rest, load management. This philosophy has never been applied in the history of the NFL. It's been a 16-game season for most of yours and my lifetime. Before that, 14. It's now 17. Nobody has ever said, well, you know what? We don't need to win now. We'll worry about winning later. It's not how the league works. You got to gather wins. You can't just take losses now. You can't say it's okay. We lose to the Jets. We'll make it up later. It's not how the league works. Nobody's ever won anything with that approach. Nobody. Now, if a guy can't play, can't play. Or if you got to monitor somebody's snaps, you got to monitor somebody's snaps. But they're not sitting down on Tuesday. They cannot be sitting down on Tuesday and saying, well, you know what? We'll just use AJ a little bit this week, and we'll worry about him down the road. Now, they're saying his hamstring can only take X this week, and so we'll give him X. That's reasonable. But they're not sitting down and saying, we're only going to give him X because we're saving him for later in the season. It's just not how it works, and it's not what they're doing. Can't be what they're doing. It's nonsense. Peak too early. They won 5 games at the beginning of last year, which set them up for stuff. You think they thought they peaked too early? You think they did a good job getting wins in the win column? Doesn't matter when the wins come to qualify for the playoffs, to win a division. I just don't know. This is still such a nobody's talking like that in any other market in the country. This is a good question. I don't know if Julio doesn't know that his injury is on the injury report, so he's playing dumb there, or what. But there's weird shit going on with Titans injuries and stuff, and it annoys the fuck out of me. Looking good in individual drills is one thing. The one thing we didn't see is them opening it up and going. And so we need to see that, Jim. Yeah, I'm not going to fight with you about this thing. If that's what they're doing, it's totally new thing and stupid, I think. I mean, I could see them at the end, at the end of a game that's in hand, not using guys, But if they're load managing anybody, it would be Derrick Henry, and there's been no hint of that. Ben, I don't know that Malarkey explained injuries to fans. He was more forthright. Yeah, John Burton violated. No, it wasn't an etiquette thing. He violated policy. We watched the first 20 minutes of practice. We can watch the first 20 minutes of practice on Wednesday or Thursday, or this week. It was Thursday and Friday, the first 10 minutes of practice. They actually kept it the same this week. So the first 20 minutes of practice on a Wednesday and a Thursday, the first 10 minutes of practice on a Friday. Get videos, whatever. It's usually stretch and individual. So the players in their position groups. You can keep that stuff and then roll it out at the time that practice ends and report about it at the time that practice ends. Burton said that Julio was practicing. He said it like right at either during that or at the end of that open period of practice, whereas all of us would have been saying it at 2:15 or 2:10 or whatever time practice officially ended. It was an honest mistake. Like he just didn't realize or whatever. He apologized to everybody the next day. It was cool. Here's a great question. They're being selectively keeping people healthy. Soft people, I guess. This is a great philosophy, except they lost to the Jets because if he's doing what you said because he thinks he can roll certain teams without certain people, he fucked up because he lost to the fucking Jets without those people. So your theory is out the window. Maybe it's what he's doing, but it's not working. Okay, so let's just concede that he went and lost to one of the worst teams in the league with that strategy. So that strategy's shit. If that's what's happening. All right. And that's the end of it for me. I don't think this has anything to do with the owners, Jim. I don't think the owners are looking at those emails. I think that's Park Avenue. And so it's Goodell or Goodell's minions or somebody like Jeff Pash, who's now in a little hot water himself. All right, truck's annoying me, which he knows. 7:20, going to pick up my family from the airport shortly. I got 2 rambunctious dogs out here, and I think we've had a good conversation. So why don't we call it? I hope most of you are going to the game. I hope you have a blast. I hope they surprise everybody. I don't expect them to, but like I said, Vrabel gets people to rise to the occasion sometimes, and I think that's a possibility. So this is a team you can't say they're going to get it done against bad teams like we saw against the Jets, and you can't say that they're not going to get it done against good team like like the team we're going to see tomorrow night. And that, my friends, is why you're on board with this thing, because of the mystery. No, I've never sent a story to NFL officials to verify a story. I've sent paragraphs to people to make sure I had things right when things are complicated. And I'll cut Schefter a little bit of a break there. Hutton wisely went and found the story in question, and it was basically a list of all the intricate details of the new CBA. And there wasn't a lot of editorial things in it, if you will. It was just like a list of facts that he had gotten from other people. And so he's sending it to Bruce Allen, kind of like I say I would send a paragraph. Like if I had a complicated paragraph about some wrinkle of the salary cap that I wanted to explain to you, and I was dealing with somebody at the NFL or at the NFLPA, and they had explained it to me in a phone conversation. And I said, hey, I'm going to hit you back because I want to make sure I've got this exactly right. And I'd send them a paragraph. Well, this is really the equivalent of Schefter doing that. I'm no big Schefter fan, except that this was, 15 paragraphs of that. This is going to change from this to this. And here are, 6 subsets of, here's how the calendar is going to work in the new CBA, and here's how free agency is going to change in the new CBA, and it's all stuff like that. And so he was basically, it was poorly worded with the Mr. Editor, sir, and all that shit, but he's basically saying to Allen, is this right? He worded all of the stuff about asking and all of that badly. But what he did was not as big of a cardinal sin as it sounds like, though it's no regular practice. All right, guys. Don't block the box. Do lock the locks. Check out Outkick 360 2 to 5 tomorrow to help you get ready for the game. And I don't generally do a broadcast after a late game like that because most of you are sane and get to sleep. And I like to get home before 2 o'clock in the morning. But I'll talk to you Tuesday evening. Enjoy the night game. And I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for coming. Don't block the box. Do lock the locks. I don't know if I said that. See you.